So I've said this, is that I don't get too caught up, James, on records. I mean, obviously you have to get into the playoffs, but I've watched Pittsburgh over the last 4 weeks, and I'm like, I'm sorry, they can't run the football. It's December. And they just don't do it for me. Like, when you watch the Steelers and their record, do you see a team that can win multiple playoff games today?
I feel like the Steelers can win multiple playoff games. Not the way they're playing now, no. I think they need to get back to being able to actually run the ball. Go ahead and grind some things out. Don't put everything on on Ben's arm. I think the offensive line, they're going to have to do a little better job of creating holes. Running backs are going to have to get healthy. Connor, he was out in and out. COVID, so on and so forth. But the biggest thing, the receivers need to catch the ball. I believe they're number one in drops. So if the guys aren't catching the ball when you're doing things where you're trying to get, run alternative plays where you're thinking and dunking because you're not doing a great job of running the ball and they're dropping those passes, that's going to create the things that you see. You only got 16 points a game over the course of the last two losses. I think it's 275 yards, both of those 27-28. And along with, I think it's like below 30% on third downs.
Yeah, they're a bad third down team right now. So I am a defender of Lamar Jackson, and my theory is if you're unbelievable at one thing, you don't have to be great at everything else. He is so spectacular as an athlete, I'm going to live with the fact he struggles throwing the ball outside of the hash marks up the field. He's not great at it, but he's so good at everything else. A lot of people are like, it's not going to last forever. It's a little shticky. I think you can build your franchise around Lamar. I saw it last night. Where do you land with him going forward?
I'm sort of middle because right now he can do all those things. He can create plays with his legs, and that's the biggest thing about him is that he can throw the ball. He's not extremely great at doing it, but he can do it effectively. And the fact that he runs the ball effectively, that means that you have to either sit back and have a bunch of guys in coverage that's spying him, or you got to try and rush him and hope you don't lose contain or he breaks contain. The thing that they did, last year that they didn't continue to do into the playoffs is they didn't continue the run pass that they were doing with him. They were trying to make him a straight, pocket passing quarterback, and that's not what he is.
Right.
I think it's effective to do it now because he's young. You can get, 4, 5, 6 years out of it easily. But, I mean, if he wants to be in there 10, 12 years, I think at some point he's got to be able to effectively pass the ball all across the field.
So, it's interesting. James, you played on a couple of not just good but great teams. And I've said this about Kansas City. They are so talented and can score so brilliantly and quickly that they don't always play with a ton of urgency. There's kind of a feel like the Warriors with Durant and Steph. Sometimes they're just kind of sitting around waiting to flip a switch. Go back to the best teams you were on, one or two of them. Did you get into points during the season where you guys watch film? You know who you're playing. You know your favorite. You know you got better players. Is it hard sometimes to get motivated when you're on a super team?
For me, it wasn't hard to be motivated because you wanted to keep that top spot. You always knew that the team that you were playing against were trying to be that team to knock you off, to be the ones that said they may not win a game all season, but if they go in there and they beat the Steelers, just like right now, if they go in there and they beat Kansas City, that's going to be a notch under their belt. They're defending champions, especially, after you've won a Super Bowl. So for me personally and the teams that I played on, if we lost to someone that we shouldn't, which, that seemed to happen, a lot where we would lose to a team that, we shouldn't lose to. And, they would say we beat a team that we shouldn't beat. But for me personally, I didn't have that issue. It may have been, other guys that, looked past them and, were like, dude, like, hey, he's looking at next week already, not really, paying attention to, all the things that the details, that we need to pay attention to and looking at, who we're trying to play next week, because that may be a bigger and more difficult opponent.
So the two of the teams that I think of you is Steelers and Patriots. And these are really well-run organizations. And in fact, New England always talks about it's not about collecting players, it's about building teams. Tampa is not a winning organization. And I watched them this year, James, and they look like a collection of players. They come off a bye. I still can't figure out their identity on offense. I can't figure it out. Like when you watch Tampa, do you see a team? Do you see a personality or an identity, or is it just a bunch of dudes who can ball?
I have to kind of agree with you there. It's a collection of guys that play good ball, that are great players or good players, and it looks like they're not keyed in and locked into exactly what it is, play in, play out, week in, week out, and that's what you get. You get what you're looking at is something that doesn't look like a coordinated effort. It looks like no identity. Guys may do something here and there for a week, and the next week you look and you're like, what happened the previous week?
Yeah. Finally, we are now late in the season. You were known as kind of a workout guy, always in unbelievable shape. And I'm sitting watching these teams now, and I'm thinking so much of the sport is mental from like week 13 on. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's banged up. Nobody's got all their dudes. Go back to your career. Was this your favorite time of the year? Did the game change for you late December and January?
For me, I think the fact that I continued to work out, all year round. A lot of guys, they get, later into the year and they stopped hitting the gym, 2-3 times a week, where they were normally hitting it maybe 4 or 5 times a week. They're going 2-3 times a week. You get later into it, and then you start getting a little nagging injuries. So instead of, converting their workout so that they can still work out, they say, you know what, I'm not even going to work out. So for me, it wasn't that I got stronger later or better later into the season. It's just that I kept up what I started with at the beginning of the season and carried it all the way through to the end.
Longest interception return for a touchdown in Super Bowl history, 100 yards against the Cardinals. James Harrison, 15 years in the league. Good seeing you, bud.
Thank you. Good to see you, too.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.